Hi everyone, it's Pete here again for today's daily reflection. It's great to have you joining with us. Today, what I'd love to do is to think with you about intergenerational communication. The thing that interests me is words and the sort of different meanings they have between generations and between individuals. Let me share with you a story of what happened this week. On one of my videos, I said, just off the cuff, as you do on YouTube, I said, "Hi guys," which for me is perfectly normal to say. It's not particularly addressing men, it's not particularly addressing women. For me, it's quite a neutral term, quite a popular term, quite an informal, chatty term. Anyway, and so for me, I just said hi guys and then got on with what I was doing. But for one of my friends, who is a good few years older than me, she won't mind me saying that, but for one of my friends, me saying hi guys had a deep reaction for her. It had a reaction for her that she found it difficult, she found it challenging. And that's intriguing for me. And she sent me an email to say, do you know, you saying that I found really hard. And the truth is, I'd never even really thought about it. The truth is, I'd just gone, this is something we say, this is something my generation says to us, this is something girls and boys use alike. But she went on to link it to the struggle of feminism in the 20th century, some of the journey she had been through, some of the things that had been fought for over the years. For example, sort of the adaptation of hymns to remove references to men and to be more inclusive in that sense. And also things like using chair instead of chairman, using words like chairperson as well would be more PC. Anyway, so we had this dialogue going on, which was interesting, and it sparked in my mind a sense of intergenerational communication. It got that sense for me of what it means to communicate, because my worldview has pretty much been post all of those events she was talking through. And so it got me really wondering. And I think one of the key elements of intergenerational communication is all about storytelling. Yep, you heard me right. Storytelling. I think it is so important, and we diminish it sometimes, the role of storytelling, because so often in our lives we communicate with other people, but we communicate from the base of our own understanding, as I did, from our own worldview, from our own experience, from our own parameters, and in that basis we're dealing with a huge amount of assumptions we're making as we go through the world, and those assumptions can lead to miscommunications. So my wonder really is, how do we as children, as parents, as grandparents, as friends of all different ages communicate better with those of different generations, of different cultural backgrounds, of different walks of life? And as I said, I think that is storytelling. And what I mean by storytelling is more than just saying things. It's the authentic opening up of our hearts, of letting others in. And yes, that does make us vulnerable. That does seem like a scary thing to do. But it seems to me the only way we go through difficult issues, the only way that we can communicate truly and honestly, trying to grapple with the depth of experience within our world, is to open ourselves up authentically, to be vulnerable to each other. I mean, part of my story, some of these are silly examples, but part of my story, my history, my emotional makeup, my experiences, my worldview are these things. One of them is that for me, Christianity and faithfulness to God causes a significant part of how I shape my personal narrative. But similarly, so does the youth culture of the 90s and early noughties. So does the TV programme Friends. So does watching gladiators with my family sitting around the table in our living room, sitting around the sofa, sitting around the telly in our living room. You'll remember the times. But so does the technological revolution. I remember dial-up and just sort of coming in, having to sit in the hallway. But I've never known a time where actually communicating with someone in China was particularly complicated. Why wouldn't I be able to log onto a computer and talk to someone over there? I remember some of the sort of secondish generation mobile phones that still looked like a brick, but you weren't quite carrying around a car battery. You know, I remember the sort of the strong thrust of the music and culture I inhabited as a young person, of that anti-establishmentism that was so prominent in it, that we wanted to set ourselves apart from the establishment, from the inherited tradition of UK culture. You know, the list could go on and on and on, and we haven't got all day, but you get the idea. You get the idea. All these things make us up. All these things make us up differently. And I wonder, how often do we talk like this with our children, with our friends, with our grandchildren? How often do we tell them the stories and link them to how we currently view the world? It's so important to share those stories. We have to be explicit. We have to be on the front foot so that we can gain greater understanding. Because over the last 30 or so years, there has been a rapid generational change, more rapid than we've seen in previous generations, where we can't rely on one group of young people, one group of adults, believing or thinking or understanding the world in the same way. And I think it's the same for church. We have to, as church, not expect that people know what on earth it is we are, what it is we're for, and what it is we do. So many people in the modern world think that the church is irrelevant or part of an establishment of time gone by, and we have to embrace that worldview and understand how we communicate into that. Similarly, we can't expect people to come into church knowing what to do in church. It just isn't something they know about. So many people are not de-churched, they've just never been anymore. They've got no heritage of faith, no heritage of church attendance. And to help them, we have to tell our story. We have to tell our story in accessible ways, where we're willing to embrace those of difference, where we can operate with those who have completely different perspectives to ourselves and seek to maintain healthy relationships. The reality is, as we do that, it will be painful. We will get offended. Imagine a group of riotous young people coming into the back of a choir evensong and experiencing that for the first time, but not knowing what to do, and talking and being on their mobile phones, because why wouldn't you be on your mobile phone? You document everything on your mobile phone. Imagine what you'd feel in that situation. It could be painful and it could offend. But we, as the people of God, have to respond with humility and generosity. We have to be open to the inclusion of those individuals, and we have to be open to sharing our stories with them in ways that are accessible, so that we allow them to see what we see and we can see what they see. We have to seek understanding so we can inhabit each other's worldviews. None of this is easy. All of it's complicated, but I think that's the calling for the church in the coming generation, and I think that's the calling for us as human beings, communicating cross-generationally, intergenerationally, that we might be storytellers, that we might open our hearts authentically, and that we might have arms of generosity, humility, and embrace. That is what I've got for you today. I hope to see you again soon. Thanks for joining us for our daily reflections. God bless.